Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Perfect Franchise Podcast. My name is Kris Simonich, and my partner here is Andrea Floyd. In our podcast, we like to climb into the minds of some of the smartest people in franchising. And so today, we're going to climb into the mind of Tim Wells with VaVia. Tim, you okay with that? You ready for us to do that?
Absolutely. I'm surprised you picked me, but with that description, but yeah, I'm ready.
No, we're super excited to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here.
So, Tim, let's start out. Share sort of the story behind VaVia. How did that brand come about? What inspired the creation of it?
Yeah. So Philip Nappy, he's the founder and the president of the company. Philip and I had formed a relationship. I actually joined about a year into VaVia's journey. This is year 6, so been here 5 years. At the time Philip started VaVia, I was an area vice president at Waste Management. I had spent 21 years there. We had actually acquired Philip's company. He had built a very successful, large roll-off company in Nashville. We acquired it, and Philip actually worked on my staff for about 6 months. He's an entrepreneur, didn't last long. He always jokes that he was the worst employee I had, and it was pretty accurate. But he actually went overseas for a while and came back, and this was like 2016. And he's like, look, I want to get in the waste business. It's such a great space to be in, but I don't want to compete with you guys. What can we do? And he started noticing, and then I did as well, these smaller trucks, much more nimble, much better ability to service tight spaces, residential areas. And he looked into it, and he came back and said, look, I want to start this company. I'd love to partner with you guys at Waste Management to use your disposal sites. And so we worked out a contract, a pretty large contract, because at the time, Philip's brother-in-law, Mike Ampey, who's the chairman of the board for our company today, had franchising experience. And Mike said, I want to get involved as long as we franchise it. That really piqued my interest. And I've been in corporate America 31 years, all in the waste space. And I was starting to want to look around the corner at what's next. I was in my early 50s. I always admired folks that had the gumption, the fortitude to go out and to take the risk to build their own business. And I always admired those folks. And so when Philip started this, I had an eye towards maybe one day joining the team, which I did about a year later. And it's been nothing but a lot of good learnings and a lot of fun since then.
That's great.
Yeah, Tim. So do me a favor, Tim. Hit it right between the eyes for me. Exactly what is it that VaVia does, and how is it different than what most of the other waste or dumpster companies are doing out there?
Yes. So in our space, if you give contractors excellent service, build relationships, make it very easy to do business with you, you're going to succeed. We combine that with a platform that allows us to do those things. We have great looking equipment, and we have we have playbooks that keep us on offense all the time. We have sayings around here that you've got to be on offense all the time. You've got to have a passion for delivering a great customer experience. A lot of companies in our space, they kind of let it come to them and let it happen, and they can be restrictive on how they interact with customers. And so we're looking for owners and for folks that want to get into a great industry, a great space, with a great platform that allows them to give a great customer experience, build relationships, and really grow a great business.
Yeah. So, Tim, that's really important. We tell clients all the time, there's lots of different types of franchises out there. And so VaVia sits in this bucket of B2B business. And one of the things we always say to them is you're responsible for sort of filling the top of that sales funnel, bringing in that business, doing the development, then managing the relationship. How does VaVia play a role in that and support franchisees so that they can help get those clients and bring them in and bring in additional business?
Yeah, we've got a robust staff. We've got a marketing director who we're adding to her team today to continue to be as good, because we all know the SEO space is very, very competitive. You've always got to be customizing websites, web pages, and doing local content to really drive as much traffic to our franchisees as possible. Same time, this is a relationship business, and getting back to how are we different. If you look at the roll-off company, every market's got plenty of competition, and you've got the big players, the Waste Managements, the Waste Connections, the Republics out there, and then you've got a handful of what we call mom and pops out there. We really don't compete with the big guys very often. They really focus on the large construction projects, new home construction. Our sweet spots are restoration companies, or residential remodeling, residential renovation, roofing companies, pool installation companies, and about 10% of our business is the do-it-yourself, or the clean outs, I'll build a deck on the back of my house and that kind of stuff. And so we combine we also have a sales director, we have a very robust sales playbook that it has to be executed on the street by our owners every day. Again, always on offense. So we combine the resource from the franchisor of the marketing director and the on the street resource of the sales director, coaching our owners how to go out, where the prospects are, how to engage those prospects, how to price for profit, and how to really grow your business.
Yeah. Let me ask you, so, because my understanding is that if I'm a franchisee, I'm going after that business, restoration companies, remodeling companies. As a franchisee, I'm able to offer a smaller container driven by a smaller truck. What are the advantages of that? Why is that a big deal to me if I'm going to be a VaVia franchise owner?
Yeah, from a cost perspective, the cost is a lot less than the traditional roll off. We've got our drivers are non-CDL drivers, so the pool is much wider and deeper to find drivers, and the cost to employ those drivers is less. Our trucks, we can fit in parking spots. We can get containers in alleys, in urban areas such as we're in Nashville, Tennessee. If you've ever been to Nashville downtown, it's very congested now. We have business down there continuously. And then when you think about the residential home that's established and they're doing a remodeling project or a restoration project, the larger trucks and containers are really not conducive to that environment. There's a lot of damage that can occur. Our trucks you're very nimble, flexible. You can get in tight spaces. And our service model, our commitment is same day, next day, all the time. To our customer base. A lot of these markets, they're really not used to getting that level of service, and we combine that with there's communication, proactive communication in our platform that we provide based off of GPS coordinates. They know ETA, exactly what time we're going to be there, so they can get stuff moved out of the way and those types of things. But it's a really it used to be what we would call a niche market, but it's really not anymore. There are so many opportunities in every market we're in and desire for our service. It's just, to me, it's incredible.
That's great. So we talked a little bit about the franchisees and, they're out doing the business development, they're networking. And so, part of that is, more of a cold calling sales, but I think it's more somebody that has that relationship communication with people to bring in the business. But I know you have a lot of background with the waste management background that you've had, as well as Philip and his company. How do you leverage those existing relationships that you've already had through the waste management space to help franchisees?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the things, it really kind of goes to our overall growth strategy. If you don't mind, I'll kind of go into that a little bit as well, because it's hand in hand. So, as a franchisor, our strategy is today and has always been to put the right people in the right markets. And a part of that is we do market analysis before we would sell a franchise to anyone. To where, and what I mean by that is we look at the competitive pricing landscape. We also do a deep dive in what the landfill and or transfer station, the disposal cost looks like. And then we do the math. Is that market based on population, based on the economy, and based off the dynamics of the price for disposal and what the competitive market is that a place is that right for a good business? And if the answer is yes, then we'll move forward with entertaining and bringing an owner into that market. If the answer is no, we won't. I can tell you there's been a couple of times that we have been speaking with a prospect that we liked, that was that we thought would be a great culture fit for us, but the market dynamics did not tell us it was going to be a great market, and we did the right thing. So look, just we're looking for folks who want to build a future, not create a job for themselves. And so we made the decision to say, look, we just can't, in good faith, sell that market to you because the pricing dynamics don't make sense to us. In our space, disposal cost is by far the largest cost item on your P&L. And if that doesn't make sense to what the competitive pricing in the market is, then we're just not going to sell a franchise there. It's just not the right thing to do. And so the finish of that is, when we look into a market, we're the only ones in our space that I think does this, is we find out what the market prices are in that market, and we help negotiate those prices to get the best deal you possibly can. Because if you're just an owner coming in is going to start their own roll-off company, they're going to view you, the disposal sites are going to view you as a competitor, and they're going to give you what's called street pricing, gate rate, which is going to be about 20-30% higher than what the market pricing truly is. So that's that, and equipment. We've got relationships now with truck vendors and suppliers and dumpster suppliers, and so we've been able to get the best pricing on assets as well.
Okay, that answered my question. That's what I was going to ask
that
you.
was
So,
me too.
Andrew, is that the same one?
Yeah, same
Okay.
one I had.
So Tim, bring it back. I'm a new franchisee. What's this business look like when I'm starting? How many containers or dumpsters do I have? Where do I put those things? How many trucks do I start with? What's this look like in the first 6 months? How do I lift it off?
Yeah. So, we coach folks that, look, you need to start off with 2 trucks and about 40 containers. You don't want 1 truck because, Murphy's Law, something can happen. There's nothing perfect in this world. So, the truck could have an issue, or you could, God forbid, have an accident early on. The truck is not usable. Well, if you're selling yourself and service, and you have to have 3 things: trucks, drivers, and containers. So, you're going to need that second truck soon anyway. So start with 2 trucks and about 40 containers. We work, when you sign on to be a family member with us, it takes about 3 months to get launched. And there's training involved before then. And we're doing work on the backside as well. Developing prospect list, starting the communication, coming soon. Coach you on how to, what trade associations to join and how to interact with those trade associations, home builder associations, remodeling associations. Don't just join. Go talk to the membership director, take them to lunch, tell them your story, help them help you grow your business. And so ideally day one, you've got activity. And our sales director is on the ground the first solid week with you, sun up to sundown, going out to job sites, going out to office sites, making visits, telling the brand, describing the brand, telling your story, helping you get rolling as soon as possible. Honestly, the first 3 months is the worst time because it does take some time to get the momentum going. But back to the mindset of always on offense. Once you get that momentum going, you stay on offense, and that wave continues to ride.
So who's the perfect candidate? What skills are you looking for? What qualities are you looking for to bring somebody in?
It's a capital-intensive business, and so we're looking for folks who can afford to grow and scale the business. We used to talk about we'd love to have people that have got some sales experience, but we've pivoted from that, and really it's about, are you comfortable in your own skin? Do you like talking to people? Because there's a lot of interaction with contractors and just telling your story, and so we have found, and it's a very natural conversation, and that's one of the things about this space that we love the most, is that your customer base, by and large, are regular people who want someone they can trust to give them good service. And that's us. And we combine that with, a strategy of developing relationships, because it's a very sticky business. If you can go out earn business, develop a relationship, that's a customer for life in this industry. And so, again, back to be able to afford the business as far from a scalability perspective, you're comfortable, you like being outdoors, you like a challenge, you like, because no one day is exactly like the next day, which to me I like. And you just like people. And part of our, every company's got a set of core values out there. And we thought long and hard about ours. And it's very simple. We're grateful. We try to do the right thing, even when it's not easy. And we have a passion as it relates to delivering a great customer experience. If you've got those three core values, you're right for us.
Yeah, so you have to be somebody who's good at communicating, and typically you're going to be communicating with people that are a little bit more blue collar. And so do you have to kind of have that background yourself, or you just have to feel like you can fit in and really just communicate with anybody?
I don't think you have to have that background. We've got folks that for example, folks in Hilton Head, Savannah, those two guys were VPs, and one was a VP in a Japanese steel company, and one was a VP at a medical sales device company. Not, probably the furthest thing you would imagine from blue collar. When you meet the folks, they're good guys, but they just gravitated towards this very naturally, just going out. And it's very easy when you believe in something and you like talking to people and you're comfortable in your own skin to convey that message to your prospects in this space.
Yeah, that's great.
Tim, I don't know if you mentioned this. If you did, I miss it. So 40 containers, that's what we're starting with, right?
Yep.
Where do I put those before they're out on the job sites all the time?
Yeah, Kris, that's a great question. That's another advantage of our space is we are not what you call a brick and mortar, where we build a restaurant, we build an establishment. People come into us to get started with us. Literally, all you need is about a half acre, gravel, fenced in, and an office trailer. And so that's where you would store your containers and get rolling. You can stack the containers if need be if you find something a little bit less than a half an acre. But you'll find very quickly, typically about 90% of our containers are on job sites at any location. So, you look at Nashville has 440 containers. Well, you're going to typically close to 400 on job sites at any point in time.
Wow. So are all of your franchisees owner operators? You don't have anybody that's semi-absentee that started out hiring people to run this for them. You want folks that are in it from day one.
We have found, we do have a couple locations. That Houston location, Jeff lives in Idaho, in Tampa. Greg lives in Connecticut. But they hire GMs on the ground. You have to have someone on the ground to run this business day in and day out. Someone's got to execute on the sales playbook to be on the ground, growing the business every day. But, so we are just to be transparent, we prefer to have the owner operator model. And we also advocate that if you do have a general manager that runs your business, that there is some type of equity play, be a sweat equity, so they have skin in the game as well.
Yeah.
Tim, tell us sort of what's the primary challenge that VaVia franchisees face?
Back to the capital, it's a capital intensive industry. And so when you look at, a lot of our locations, they launch a couple of trucks, 40 containers a year out. You're probably going to have 3 or 4 trucks and 125-ish containers. And so there's a capital spend to get there. But I'll tell you, when we first started, we knew a lot about the industry, Philip and I, but we didn't know about franchising. And so we signed on with what's called an FSO, a franchise sales organization. And I got to be friends with one of the developers, and Andrea, you may know him, his name's David. I asked him one day, I said, David, what do you like about our business and what do you not like about our business? Because we had built Nashville, we'd run it for a year as a proof of concept. And his comment was, and very quickly, said, man, he goes, Tim, I love your business model. He said, honestly, there's nothing I don't like about it. It is capital intensive. He said, but let me tell you, you guys, the first year, you did close to $1 million from ground zero at a healthy profit margin. you had 7 employees at the end of the year. Most franchises out there, to get to $1 million, you're going to need about 30 employees, and you'll never get those labor dollars back. Not to mention the headaches, managing 30 people versus 7. So you're going to spend the same dollars, but in your model, you're retaining the value of the equity in the business through buying containers and trucks versus spending labor dollars. So to me, it's the first year and a half until the business becomes self-funding. Being able to continue to invest in the business as you're growing is the biggest challenge.
So reinvesting back in and buying more containers, and that's the expectation. You're not going to stop. You need to build out. And I think part of what my understanding is too is that you're partnering with these contractors that may branch into other territories. So it's sort of having that larger ability to sort of scale and pick up their business too, right? And you're going to need those containers to service those areas. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Our customers migrate job site to job site, and as you enter a market, you may be more territory you need to buy to continue to capture that service area, total service area. But it's the capital strain the first year and a half, and it's that first 3 to 6 months of uncomfortability of, hey, I've got these trucks and containers, and I'm growing, but it's until you get your feet under you and understand the model and but I always advise folks, because one of the things that I do in my role is I'm what I call the business coach, is that, hey, you just keep following the playbook. Here's what you're seeing. What are you hearing objection wise? Let's kind of role play and go through that. Keep going, because you're winning. You're not there yet, but you're getting there, and it's just pushing through that, which they ultimately do.
Yeah. It's interesting. There are certain problems that are attached to success, right? Like in your industry, oh my gosh, I'm a VaVia franchisee. All my containers are out and rented. I'm tapped out. What people will think when they hear that is, oh, that's a good problem to have. But the reality is, to your point, you got to have that access to capital, because if you're all tapped out, you don't have any more containers, and the contractors you work with, they're expanding and they need you more, and you can't help them, they'll start
Right.
using somebody else. So people always say, oh, that's a good problem to have. And it is. There's worse problems to have, but it's a real problem. You got to be ready for it. If the business is ready to grow, you got to be ready to follow it. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And look, I keep very close. Again, I'm kind of Philip and I, we've kind of separated who does what naturally, wherever your natural bent is. And I like coaching folks, and I keep very close tabs. Every site, I do a report every week on performance forecast, and I've got several KPIs in there. And one of it is your inventory percent of overall containers. And once you get 95% of containers on the job site, I'm talking to you. Hey, and then you've got to remember, you got to have 3 things: trucks, drivers, and containers. And so I'm always talking to these guys about, hey, you need to be looking at hiring that second driver, that third driver, that fourth driver, because there's a time to recruit, hire, and you got to train them. Because I'm big on safety as well. It's we're in an industry that you're operating in a hazardous environment. You're on the road with a truck that could weigh up to 26,000 gross vehicle weight, and you're going to landfills, transfer stations that have heavy equipment that moves the waste around. So, I coach these guys on when to hire that second driver, third driver, fourth driver, when to invest in the truck, when to buy more containers. We've got KPIs as you would imagine around asset utilization. Capital intensive industry, you've got the goal is to do more, as much as you can with the fewest amount of dollars spent. So we pay attention to asset utilization, how often are the containers being hauled as a percent of containers on job site. And there's things that we do to manage that proactively. I don't get in the weeds with you, but we look at all those KPIs and coach. Of all the current franchisees, only one has any waste experience whatsoever. And the others are doing well. And so they get there by us coaching them how to run that business.
That's great. That's really great. So Tim, we're gonna pivot a little bit, and we're gonna wrap up with some rapid fire questions. And these are general. You don't have to answer about VaVia. This is advice to franchisees. And so the first one is, What's one thing you would tell someone contemplating becoming a franchisee?
That's a great question. I would tell you, when I got into this, I had spent my whole career, like I said earlier on, with two companies. One was, and both were in the waste industry, Republic and Waste Management, 31 years. Transition to a franchisor role, and you become more of a coach than I guess a boss. And so if you're going to get buy a franchise, really vet. Are they really going to support you and really care about your business? A, B, are you going to follow their advice? Are you going to follow their coaching and drive your business? They've got a success history, and they got that by having a game plan. Are you going to follow the game plan? Because these are entrepreneurs that are coming in to do these things, and so naturally they want to be the person that's making the decisions to run their business. And I get that. I admire that. But you've also got to pay attention and follow sound advice to have the best success that you can have, if that makes sense.
Yep, that's great. So one other question. What's one thing you would tell a new franchisee in their first year of business?
So I want to gravitate towards the VaVia franchise. So just kind of overall, hold your franchisor accountable to support you, but again, follow their advice and look at the long view. The first year in any business, starting from scratch, is going to be difficult. But if you're following the advice, executing, and staying after it, you're going to succeed. You're going to have a much higher success factor, I would say. Again, the natural bent is going to be, the mindset of being an entrepreneur is, I can do it this way. And look, that's great to have ideas and alternative ways of looking at things. But on a large scale, follow the advice of the success that's happened before you and replicate that.
That's great. Thank you. Tim, this has been great. I loved learning a lot more about VaVia. I think it's a great business. I think it's one where B2B businesses can be a little bit harder, the business development, the networking piece. Your business has that high intensive capital component to it, but you have a lot of competitive advantages having those smaller 10, 15-yard containers, partnering with smaller contractors, whether they're pool contractors, roofing, all those pieces, and really the relationship piece, and then utilizing the trucks correctly and efficiently, I think is really the name of the game. And so it's a really great business. And I think the expertise that you and Philip bring from all of your background in waste management is really setting these franchisees up for success. And so thank you so much for sharing all of that today with us. So for those of you that's thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one size fits all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com by clicking on Let's Talk to schedule a call with one of the consultants on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Until then, take care.